and also with a passion. Otherwise, nobody asks me to do so much those kind of things related to science innovation, because I know science innovation is the driving force to lead the transformation of agrifood systems globally, and even at the village level. Because every agrifood system transformation starts a village. In America, started a farm, because your farm is bigger than a village in most developed countries, more than 1,000 hectares. A lot of developed countries, one village maybe only 20 to 40 hectares. So because 85% of smallholder farmers in the world, only 15, 16 family farmers are a little bigger than 3 hectares. That's the reality, my dear professor, because you are not on agriculture, but you are a famous economist. So that's a basic data I just want to share with you. But filling the gap, and my colleague Martin Vincent, we had a discussion, so we should change the behavior. The people, look, the different farmers, different people, even different staff. Since I came, I know before, the only 10% people can friendly use the iPad, computer in FAO. And after 5 years, I think 80% the senior manager can use the tablet and the iPad. But I was from the academy, from the university. It's strange if you see your professor, associate professor, assistant professor didn't know how to use the computer and the iPad. It's a little bit strange. But here is the intergovernmental organization. They always ask the assistant to fix the computer, iPad, and the slide. But I'm my first DG prepared slide by myself. But it happens when the pandemic comes, I can run it by myself. I also send the screenshot photos to the OCC because they couldn't have photos for news. I remember I was participating in the first summit of G20 during the pandemic. So OCC director at that time asked me, hey, do you have any photos? Yes, I do. I did it by myself, by the screenshot. So I said that you should change your behavior. Scientific, you should believe science. You should believe in innovation. Not only necessary for the agricultural food, even for your life. You need to believe science can lead to change, make your life simple and efficient, even enjoyable. Second, fill in the gap. We should organize the farmers how to fill in the gap. It's very challenging, not only in the developed country, and also in the United States and Europe. For instance, Europe now so many years promote a natural-based solution. I challenge the farmers in Europe, especially Italy, when I visit there. What means natural-based solution? No pesticide, no fertilizer. It's a natural-based solution. So, who cares you are natural-based or non-natural-based? What is your quality of food you produced? You should produce a high quality of food. That's the goal. And then you have to improve their productivity because they pay you by kilos, not by the natural-based or non-natural-based. So I said, we have to give the right message and the information to the farmers to understand what is real science. Like kids, you don't give them efficient nutrition, natural-based solution, let them grow. I'm a geneticist. If you have a good genotype, it's okay. But if I have a relatively not so good, and then I'm so short because I have not enough feed, not enough food, not enough nutrition. The animals couldn't grow in the health, and the people, they couldn't grow in the high as possible. So we need to give the right information, not only from the scientists, education, professors, government bodies like FAO. That's why I created this forum. I know before I come, there are no any people talk about the science innovation here. They're all the diplomat people, they always participate in the governing bodies on behalf of the country, read the statement, and they start negotiation. That's business as usual. We have to change the business as usual. and innovative way, and a more inclusive, more open way. So fill in the gap, change the behavior, educate, give the right information to the farmers, and even the manager. I didn't want to touch the ministers, vice minister, or your colleagues. If you are ministry people, staff, professional staff, P4, P5 level, they didn't understand science, how can they propose the statement for you to speak? Yeah? So we need the right information. And third, I think more important for FAO as a UN specialized agency, we should advocate, let the different cutting edge, different opinions to speak. Allow scientists, allow the professional people debate. We are not, science should be across the board. That's my belief. Yeah, we don't have Chinese science, American science, European science. We should talk about the same science. Yeah. So that's the three issues. That's why I so passionate and support the and World Food Forum, and the same is the science innovation. And last, I said we have a long way to go. We should work together. Not only feed the purpose of the food security. And I said the food security has three elements. For filling science and innovation gap, also we have three elements. The same. Just change the first words. Food availability, food accessibility, and food affordability. Science availability, technology availability, innovation availability, innovation accessibility, and innovation affordability. If 40 years ago, the one computer is $10,000. Now the one mobile phone only maybe $500. It's much powerful than the computer 40 years ago. So we need affordability for science and technology, especially for agro-food system, because we produce the cheapest basic necessity for a human being. We need availability, affordability, and of course, accessibility. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Director General, for your inspiring words. I very much like this formula, which mimic what we say about food security, so technology, accessibility, affordability, accessibility, that's really important. So I think we already have solved part of the problem, but we'll hear from other speakers before, and we'll deep dive into some more discussions. But before doing that, what I would like to do is to pick up your brain in the audience, because you need to also tell us what you think, what is it for you closing the science, technology, and innovation gap. So what we are going to do now is we are going to use a Mentimeter. It's a Mentimeter word cloud sessions. I hope it's going to work. And we would like you to tell us, what does it mean for you, closing the STI gap? So the DG told us, what is it for him? So what is it for you? So use the QR code and give us your answers. So we'll reveal in a couple of minutes. What do you think of how do you close the STI gap? Do you do exactly as the DG said? Or do you have other ideas?
You didn't give me the reference.
You can scan it. Ah, well, affordability, inclusion, change mindset. I think that's something that we heard. Changing mindset is important. Knowledge, appropriation. So we are seeing this slowly. How do you perceive this question of closing the STI gap? And I think we can all agree that we are all concerned about access, inclusion, and the voices of those who often remain unheard. So these reflections will guide our discussion today, but also tomorrow and the day after. And with that, without any further ado, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, and I would like to pick up on the brain of our Nobel laureate again. He has been very generous with us, already giving some opening remark before, but before he leaves, if he could come on stage and share with us a few words of wisdom on how can we close the science, technology, and innovation gap. Professor Michael Kremer. Thank you.
So let me try to address this issue of the innovation gap from the standpoint of economics. So many successful innovation systems combine two different types of funding. What I'll call push funding, which is upfront funding, not with the commercial return, just providing funding like through, in the US, the National Institutes of Health or the National Science Foundation. That's one type of research institution. Another aspect of innovation systems is what I'd call the pull of a market. And that's the expectation of commercial return. And that leads firms to invest. Now, we're constantly negotiating what are the appropriate balance between upfront push funding from the public sector and the pull of a market. But, and I don't want to claim that we've got the right balance right now, but where those two things coexist, at least we get some new innovations. And, we see that in sector after sector. Obviously in health, there's lots of new pharmaceuticals and vaccines. It's also contributed to food security. And it's easy to lose sight of the tremendous accomplishments through innovation. The world population has more than doubled. It's grown 2.5 times over the past 50 years. But arable land, of course, hasn't. But hunger has fallen substantially over that period, despite the more than doubling of population. And in large part, that's because of the combination of push funding for agricultural R&D and pull incentives leading to the development and commercialization of new agricultural technologies, enabling crop yields to triple over that 50-year period. However, while there are some types of innovation where the pull of the existing market provides strong incentives, for other types of innovation that are of great social importance or of great environmental importance, the pull incentive is either absent or much, much weaker than justified by the social need. And just to give an example of this, there are over 5,000 patents related to the European maize borer. Maize borer affects maize production. So obviously something very important for food systems in much of the world. Well, there's also the African maize borer, and there's only the maize stalk borer, which primarily affects Africa. There are only 5 patents for the African maize stalk borer. So that gap, I think, may reflect other factors as well, but it's hard not to think that the difference in commercial incentives is part of the factor. Now, in the language of economics, where there's a social need and the existing incentives are not there to bring in the commercial sector, that creates an arbitrage opportunity, one that can be filled in various ways, either by upfront push funding from the public sector or by changing institutions to create the pull of a market. Just to give a sense of the rate of return to this innovation, when people have looked at the rate of return to investing in the CGIAR system, they've estimated the benefits exceed the costs by more than 10 to 1, 10 to 1 ratio. Or to give another example, the gains, it's been if you take the estimated economic gains from the Green Revolution, obviously it's something that's a complicated topic, and I don't want to minimize that, but if you take the estimated economic gains for it, that would have paid for all of development assistance over the entire history of development assistance, and that alone would have made all of development assistance worthwhile. So this innovation, investing in innovation to address these gaps is not only important for inclusivity, it's not only important for equity, but it also has a very high economic return. Now, I mentioned before that nonetheless, these individual investments are risky. So how do you manage that? Well, let me say something, and I'll echo some remarks from earlier. I'll say something about how you can do that on the push side and how you can do that on the pull side. On the push side, I apologize to those of you who were here before, but I discussed open tiered evidence-based innovation funds. So those provide small amounts of funding to pilot new ideas or rigorously test them in real-world situations, and then reserves larger amounts of funding for innovations that have been proven to be effective, not just technically, but also in terms of, we heard about it, food acceptance, food adoption, technology acceptance and adoption. Okay? Now, by doing that, and that have so you have to prove that it has impact, and then it has to have effectiveness, cost effectiveness. For things, by reserving the large-scale funding for that, these open-tiered evidence-based innovation funds allow for many small bets and can be very open about them and can allow really proposals to come in from everywhere. But they can maintain the rigor, the scientific rigor, the economic rigor, by saying, well, before we invest larger amounts, you need a new application. It's not automatic because we funded you before. You need a new application, and then you have to get those larger amounts, you need that rigorous evidence. Okay? As I mentioned before, when we looked at the USAID portfolio, we obviously had lots of things that didn't succeed, but we had some that succeeded. And when we looked at just 5 of those, and we had many more that succeeded, but just 5 out of the first 41 that we funded, where we could quantify the benefits, it had a 17-to-1 benefit cost ratio. So I think this general approach of taking lots of bets, being quite open about that, but then requiring evidence of impact and cost effectiveness before larger funds are sunk can yield a high return and limit risk. Okay, a second approach, though, is even more radical in a way, which is to try to harness the energy and creativity of the private sector by telling the private sector, if you have an idea and you're willing to take the technological risk, we will help address the economic risk for you. So if you produce a product that has certain desired characteristics and that has at least some consumer demand, we'll help cover the cost of purchasing that. That's the advanced market commitment that I talked about in the last session. And as I noted, when that was tried for pneumococcus vaccine through the pilot pneumococcus advanced market commitment, that led to the development of 3 vaccines and ultimately to hundreds of millions of children being immunized and 700,000 lives saved. Let me note that that's an approach where the public funder they can actually take fairly large risks because they're not going to, I don't want to claim you can only use this pull funding, but with the pull component of funding, they only pay if the product is developed. So it's the private sector that then takes the risk of the technology working or not. Okay, I think, as I indicated before, I think similar approaches could be harnessed, could be used for a variety of challenges for transforming agri-food systems, and in particular, for transforming agri-food systems in ways that serve the interests of those who are neglected through by existing commercial incentives, i.e. some of the smallholder farmers, women, indigenous communities. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Creamer, for sharing your insights. And I think there is a lot of food for thought from what we've heard now about these insights, economic insights, but also this open, evidence-based fund, which was mentioned, and the work of the collaboration with the private sector that was mentioned in several occasions. Thank you so much for your remarks. Just before getting into the panel discussion, I wanted to mention that we have a digital scriber, so somebody who is going to capture what we are saying on the screen, and I think he has already started. So I would like to thank him for being here somewhere, and so his name is Christoph Kellner, and he's listening to everything we are saying, and he's going to capture it, and he will do it in several sessions during the Science and Innovation Forum. And now it's time for bringing our panelist speakers on the stage. And so I'm going to introduce them first. So we'll have Ophelia Nick, who is a Parliamentary State Secretary for Germany, and actually you can come on stage. We'll have Mr., and excuse me for the pronunciation, Buzrukonov, Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation of Uzbekistan. And then we have Sarah Elvira Kumunen, an indigenous leader from Sweden. We have Tibian Ibrahim, the tech chair of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And then finally, and I hope it's working, but online, we should have Chris Ernie, who is the head of the UN Futures Lab of the United Nations. He's joining us on Zoom, and I'm just wondering if he's here. Hey, here is Chris. Thank you for being with us. So let's get straight away in this conversation. And I will start with Ophelia. Ophelia, what kind of actions, policy actions or development actions you think could make a difference and could help us leverage science, technology, and innovation, especially in low and middle income countries? Do you have some experiences you would like to share with us?
Does it? Yeah, it works. Okay. Thank you very much for this question. First of all, before I answer this question, in Germany we have well-known universities, but we also have consultant institutions. So everyone who is a farmer or wants to become a farmer can go there and can learn. So I think this is really important, and the farmers in Germany are really well educated. But we also work together with other countries. We have projects with other countries, or we have this APD, this is agricultural politic dialogues. So, and we try in the projects or in the dialogues really to work together and not a top-down approach. So really try to work together and also look what the countries knows. For example, traditional knowledge is very important for us, that we really try to have a tailored solution for the country. And we see that in our projects, we are really successful. We learn a lot, and also we have the train-to-train approach, so we have a broad approach that the people, and not just one project, so in a broad way. So I think this is a good thing. We do it. Thank you.
Would you like to say a few things on the work you do in Colombia? You mentioned that.
Yeah,
earlier.
for example,
yeah,
we have a project in Colombia, and there is indigenous knowledge, and we don't just say how you can do it with German techniques. This is not the way. So we really want to know how they do it, and then we want to strengthen the people, their knowledge there, and do it in a better way.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ophelia. Now I will move to the Deputy Minister. Would you like to share with us how you're closing the science, technology, and innovation gap in Uzbekistan? And if you wish to go there to give your presentation, please feel free. Yes, you can. It should work.
Если позволите, я буду говорить на русском.
It will be in Russian, so you can use your headsets. Please.
Господин председатель, уважаемые участники форума, позвольте отметить, что в Узбекистане развитию науки, технологий, инноваций придают огромное значение. Для примера, только 2023 год в Узбекистане в производство были внедрены 486 проектов, разработанных высшими учебными заведениями и научными организациями, что позволило превратить научные открытия в рыночные продукты и услуги. И это привело к созданию новых рабочих мест и в конечном итоге к укреплению экономики страны. Для примера, в 2024 году в рамках национальной программы «Цифровое поле» автоматизация была внедрена в более чем 500 фермерских хозяйствах страны, что позволило повысить их эффективность на 25%. Эти шаги демонстрируют важную роль инноваций и создания экологически устойчивого сельского хозяйства, что является одной из наших ключевых целей. Мы продолжаем двигаться вперед, инвестируя в развитие человеческого капитала, создавая платформы для коммерциализации научных достижений. Только за последний год усилия по интеграции науки и производства привели к созданию 17 новых инновационных предприятий. Не менее важной частью нашего пути к успеху является международное сотрудничество, партнерство с международными организациями, включая ФАО. Способствовало значительному прогрессу в области биотехнологий и органического сельского хозяйства. Благодаря помощи ФАО в нашей стране были внедрены новые технологии для эффективного использования водных ресурсов, что особенно важно для региона Центральной Азии, испытывающего нехватку водных запасов. Совместные проекты с ФАО охватывают такие ключевые направления, как адаптация к изменению климата и укреплению продовольственных систем на всех уровнях. И позвольте отметить, что у нас развивается и высшее образование и науки. В Узбекистане, начиная с 2016 года, проводятся масштабные реформы в области высшего образования. Эта реформа направлена в первую очередь на расширение доступа к образованию, обновленные учебные программы в соответствии с международным стандартом и повышение качества образования с учетом требований современного высокотехнологичного производства. Подготовка нового поколения исследователей является приоритетной задачей для нашей страны. Мы инвестируем значительные средства в развитие научных исследований. Например, в 2023 году на поддержку 558 проектов было направлено 74 миллиона евро. Эти проекты, включая проекты в области сельского хозяйства, направлены как на фундаментальные, так и на прикладные исследования, расширяя границы научных знаний, решая актуальные задачи страны и общества. В заключение позвольте выразить надежду, что международное сотрудничество, обмен опытом и совместные усилия могут действительно привести к устранению разрыва в науке, технологиях и инновациях. А результаты нынешнего форума ФАО станут важным вкладом в достижение общих целей устойчивого развития. Примите мои заверения в том, что Республика Узбекистан будет вперед тесное сотрудничество с ФАО для достижения этих целей. Желаю всем участникам плодотворной работы и дальнейших успехов. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. And now I'm going to turn to Tibian Ibrahim. And I would like to ask you, so climate technologies are very much needed to support transition toward more resilient and sustainable agri-food systems. But the access gap, the one that we were mentioning just before, is significant. How can we address this and strengthen support to countries?
Thanks so much, and good afternoon, everyone. So I am the chair of the Technology Executive Committee, or the TEC, of the UNFCCC, and for those who aren't aware, this is the policy arm of the UN Climate Change Technology Mechanism. We work hand in hand with the Climate Technology Center Network, or the CTCN, which is the implementation arm. So to answer your question, first I wanted to touch on, in 2022, based on the findings of the synthesis report for the technical assessment component of the first global stocktake of the Paris Agreement, it showed that for adaptation sectors, the most commonly prioritized ones for parties for technology development and transfer were agriculture and water sectors. And this finding was prioritized in the TEC's work plan. So we have a work plan, rolling work plan from 2023 to 2027. And in this work plan, we factored in this finding from parties. And since our work plan has been kicked off, the TEC has been working very closely with the FAO on this. And we will be publishing a report with the FAO, a joint report at COP29 this year in Baku, in only like a few weeks. And it's a report on climate technologies for agri-food systems transformation. The work that we have jointly brought forward shows how important climate technologies are and how access to these is needed to achieve the agri-food system transformation. And this hinges quite predominantly on capacity building. It hinges on finance and strong institutions. Basically, without knowing how and being able to invest, we will not be able to move forward. So when you look very specifically into these areas, and this again will be in the report, for capacity building and raising awareness, we found that, especially for marginalized communities, those on the front line, like least developed countries and small island developing states, this raising awareness and capacity building is so important and vital to realize the benefits of deploying readily available climate technologies. So we need increased investment in research and development for new technologies for agriculture, and that this has found to have significant positive financial, social, and environmental benefits for agri-food systems. Secondly, economic and financial constraints are often highlighted as the a major component why technology development or technology transfer is hindered when it comes to climate action, and for climate technologies. So in coordination with broader efforts, scaling up and effectively implementing climate technology requires not only a large increase in finance, but also tailoring of financial instruments to support investment requirements. So there's a need to create enabling conditions for financial institutions, so to provide either guarantee or risk-sharing services, asset collateralized loan programs, or other very specific instruments that can accelerate the adoption of these technologies. And I know this is often going to be challenging as well for developing countries, for smallholder farmers who don't necessarily have such a large case that they're working with, and it is the case quite often with adaptation projects in trying to attract this sort of private investment. And third, just a final point, at the coordination level, it requires quite a whole of government approach, a whole policy level across all sectors, and not just government, but all actors as well, are needed to really enable that climate technology to be transformational.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your intervention, Tibi and Ibrahim. And now I would like to pass the microphone to Sarah Elvira Kumunan. And I would like to know from you, how can we integrate and preserve the wisdom of indigenous knowledge systems alongside scientific advancements to create equitable and effective solutions?
Yes, I am from the Swedish part of Sápmi and belong to the Sámi Indigenous Peoples. And I'm also grown up in a reindeer herding family in the northern part of Sweden. So traditional indigenous knowledge is a systematic way of thinking, perceiving, and knowing that has evolved over centuries and millennia, and is applied to phenomena across biological, physical, cultural, and linguistic systems. Indigenous knowledge encompasses a deep understanding of local ecosystems, contributing to more comprehensive environmental assessment, biodiversity preservation, and climate change adaptation. And traditional knowledge has been applied for thousands of years by indigenous peoples as a standalone knowledge base. And in my opinion, indigenous knowledge shouldn't be something that has to be included. It should be, given that it's already involved. And we must abandon the limited dualistic perspective of indigenous knowledge versus science. I see indigenous knowledge as a part of STI, and there are many examples of indigenous knowledge holders who are also researchers and academics, such as Raunapire Eirasara, who was here last year presenting her work and research about Sami food knowledge. Applying traditional indigenous knowledge can lead into innovative solutions for resource management, research, land governance, decision-making, and sustainable responses to the climate crisis, as our ecological knowledge can contribute to more effective and sustainable policy decisions. And sustainable development initiatives that honor both traditional and scientific knowledge are more likely to be successful and enduring. And for this to happen, more people must gain a greater understanding of indigenous people and the knowledge holders we are. We possess invaluable knowledge that complements scientific research. While science may see a single marker, indigenous knowledge sees the whole, the entire system. So today I want to highlight the importance of respecting, recognizing, and valuing indigenous traditional knowledge on the same platform equally with other forms of knowledge, especially in the fields of research, innovation, and technology.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your contribution and telling us that we should move away from this dualistic approach between indigenous knowledge and science and technology. That's fantastic. And now I would like to turn to Chris. Chris, you can hear us, right? Chris.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, fantastic. My question, you can imagine what is my question. I mean, you know, we keep reacting to pandemics, to crises, and so on and so forth. And the question here, you as the head of this UN Future Labs, how can we be more anticipatory? How can we proactively access knowledge and take actions, not just in times of crisis?
It's a great question, Vincent, and thank you so much for having me here today. It's a real pleasure to be here on this panel. Look, I think, you know, if we reframe the question as, rather than reacting with policies and measures to global challenges, can we anticipate them well in advance and proactively take action? The short answer to that question is yes, we can. The kind of slightly longer answer to that question is yes, we can, but I think we're pretty bad at doing it. And it's quite strange, isn't it? Because I think that how we think and organize our thoughts about the future is something that humans have always done to a greater or lesser degree, whether we've looked at the color of the sky at night, the direction the birds are flying in, or what direction seas and oceans are flowing in. And I think that what we're faced with at the moment is a huge amount of data and information that's out there telling us that many global challenges are here now, or about to arrive, or are festering away, waiting to let themselves known to us. And I think part of the issue is that our brains are just not designed for the level of complexity that's now upon us, nor what's coming over the horizon. And that has a big impact on how we innovate, how we invest in science, and how we invest in technology at times. There are obviously great examples out there, some of which have been mentioned by this panel, of how organizations and institutions have thought really seriously about the future and therefore how to taper their science, technology, innovation needs towards a variety of different futures. But you only have to look around the world right now and our recent past, looking at pandemics, climate change, recent conflicts, to realize that we're just not very good at turning the anticipation into decisions, into planning, into action. And so we need a bit of help to do that. And this includes STI. We need frameworks, tools, underlying values and approaches that help a diversity of people, a diversity of perspectives, and a diversity of approaches bring signals of change to the forefront and to turn those signals into action. But there's hope. And I think that the recent Summit of the Future that many of us just returned from New York to participate in, and the Pact for the Future showed a new way for us as a multilateral system to function in a more complex and a more complicated world. This included 193 member states of the United Nations agreeing that there is another way that we can overcome complexity, and part of that is with a deliberate view to the future. Within our UN organizations, we see a resurgence of interest in focusing on the future. We've got the organization that I work for, the UN Futures Lab. You look at UNDP, you look at FAO, UNESCO, the UNICEF Foresight, Youth Foresight Fellows, and the list continues and grows. But establishing foresight teams and establishing teams that deliberately look towards the future is only the start, and it's not enough. Embracing strategic foresight as a tool to organize and understand thoughts about the future is not enough. The world is telling us that we can't be complacent right now. And so we've got all of these tools, we've got all of these teams, but we can't take our eyes off the ball. So when we look to how we organize various thoughts about the future, when we look to a diversity of thoughts and experiences and perspectives, we need to make sure that the ways that we understand the future are inclusive. We need to make sure that there are seats at various tables for youth, for older generations, and indeed future generations, those who aren't quite with us yet. But to be able to do that, we need to be able to make sure that that foresight, as I said, is really and futures thinking is really leading into the bloodstream of our organizations, from the top level decision making right the way up to field level decision making, because it has a direct impact on planning and action, including how we innovate, why we innovate, and what we innovate on. And for this to happen, our team members, our executives, our interns need permission to think more carefully about the future. To do that, we need to have the relevant resources. We need to garner and nurture the relevant cultures, including and let's use this space to call this out. It also includes the administrative spaces of our organizations. So for us to be able to cope with the complexity and complicated nature of perhaps more turbulent futures, we also need to focus on the back end enablers, the legal affairs offices, the administration, the human resources, so that we're future fit as well as anticipation ready. So for me, if I were to answer your question a little bit more briefly and kind of to summarize what I've just said, I think that the answer to your question is yes, we can be better at anticipating in the future. Yes, we can be much more adept at adaptation and being ready for more turbulence. But for us to do that, that comes on all of us, from donors to our institutions to how we vote. We're all implicated in making a conscious decision that thinking about the future is an investment, not only in our organizations now, not only in terms of how we function with more complexity now, but really with a view to being better ancestors for those who take over our organizations moving forwards. Thanks, Manson. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Chris. And you highlighted the fact that we need to have it in our DNA now. This foresight is not just about having teams about foresight, but it has really to trickle down across the organizations. And also we have to support our member countries to embrace foresight, to be more anticipatory. Thank you so much for your contribution. You stay with us. A little bit later, we'll have the launching of our foresight report. So I think it will be quite a highlight also of today. I'm mindful of the time, so I would like to fast forward the process. And instead of asking you a second question here, I would like to get back to the Mentimeter and ask you some more questions. And I'm just looking at my colleagues if we can use the Mentimeter right now, because I think that would be interesting from what you've heard just like now. I would like to hear from the audience. You can, again, you can use the QR code if it appears on the screen, to really get a little bit more in details in terms of how we can close this STI gap from what we've just learned now. So we'll see if it can go on the screen now. But so it's going to come. It's going to come. But before it comes, I just wanted to say one thing: is that after the Mentimeter session, there will be a kind of a louder sound, and we will dim the light. But it's okay. You can stay in the. But if you feel if you feel a little bit scared, and if you want to leave the room, you can leave the room. You have a few minutes to leave the room. But otherwise, you stay here, and you will see what happened, basically. But before that, we'll get the Mentimeter, right? It's coming up. Yeah. Okay. But if you want to react, I mean, just waiting for the Mentimeter. And Ophelia, you need to leave like now, or you still have 1 minute? Yeah, you can stay, of course.
Unfortunately, I have to leave, but
if you want to say one word, yeah.
And yeah, I think maybe also 2024 is now 20 years of the guidelines of the right to food, and we need clear strategies and a clear opinion, so we really can make a sustainable impact. So, thank you very much to all of you, and we hope. That we can have a better world. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your contribution. If you want to use the Mentimeter, you can. Otherwise, feel free to leave. So please use the Mentimeter. So what are the most promising avenues for democratizing science, technology, and innovation? And while you are doing it, if anybody wants to leave the room, you can as well. But I suggest you stay. Okay, so what are the most promising avenues to close the STI gap in an equitable manner? Well, it's quite small writing, but fostering national and local innovation ecosystems and community-driven innovations. True international cooperation beyond technology transfer. Promoting science policy society interface. Promoting multinational governance in STI. Developing human and social capital everywhere. I think there is something around funding also, rethinking the way we fund innovation. I cannot see it well. But so we are starting to see some groupings, and so we've got 15% on the fostering national innovation ecosystem and community-driven innovation. So that will be really one of the deep dive we will do tomorrow. So I really encourage you to attend this session. Oh, right, I can see 18% around the integration of national, traditional and indigenous knowledge. So I think you made a good impression with your, your speech. And we also have promoting science policy interface, science policy society interface, coming on third position. So it gives us quite an interesting indication of where you see STI really making a difference. So thank you very much for your cooperation. I think nobody had a heart attack. It's okay. So what's happening? What's going on here? So what we heard, what did we hear? So there was a massive solar storm, far more powerful than any recorded in history, erupting from the sun. This event, known as a Carrington-level solar storm, has released a colossal amount of energy into space, potentially causing widespread disruptions to Earth's infrastructure, leading to electrical grids overload, damaging critical infrastructure, satellite communication collapse, cloud-stored data loss. This event poses both challenges, that is to say, exacerbation of existing inequalities, disruption of supply chains, reduced investment in agri-food systems, but it's also possibly an opportunity for investing in resilience, local solutions, partnerships, foreclosing the STI gap. So we were just trying to mimic, because we are talking about a future scenario. So we're just trying to see, just in the middle of what we were discussing, something happened super big. So we don't have any more infrastructure. Things have collapsed. How would you react to that now? Would you review your statement? What would you do in such circumstances? It could happen. Chris, do you want to start? You are the futuristic man.
Absolutely not. But I'll as you've invited me, I'll give it a go. I mean, one, it's a terrifying event, and I imagine the first thing that I would do is try and find all of my cheese and put that in a bag, and protect that, and then and make sure that I've got a sufficient reserve of cheese to get me through the next couple of weeks, because I'm a big fan of cheese. I'm probably about 85% cheese most of the time. The second thing that I do, though, when I go back to work, is I carry out some foresight together with the team. And the reason I say that this is that I think that even in the midst of crises, we can be deliberate about thinking about the future, and perhaps it's as important as doing so in non-crisis settings in preparation for turbulence. And I think it's something that we see across the UN foresight teams really doing a lot of at the moment. A lot of thinking about, okay, we're in the middle of it at the moment. We're being faced by multiple crises the world over, and I think that from the leadership up or down, depending on how you view hierarchies, including during the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a real push to make sure that we're not paralyzed by a solar storm or by climate change or issues of disinformation, name a global risk. And you'll find folks within the UN trying to think about how this risk plays out, or how a conflation of risks play out into the future. So the second thing that I would do is roll up my sleeves and get to work. I can't think of a more powerful tool to really help us make better decisions during crises than creating spaces for a diversity of people and colleagues and partners and friends to think about how this particular crisis plays out. But my starting point would be finding the cheese and making sure I've got enough of it to last a couple of weeks. Over to you, Vincent.
Thank you. I think the cheese part is quite interesting, but I really like the fact that, I mean, from your perspective, basically it's an accelerator as well for maybe doing better, being more inclusive, having everybody at the table to discuss what are the solutions. And these solutions are not necessarily technological, because maybe we have a total disruption of power, energy, and so on and so forth. So we have to get back to something a little bit more simple, some frugal innovation, possibly, in time of crisis. And so maybe it's an opportunity that we would grasp as well. And being prepared, I think the whole thing of foresight is being prepared to such events so that you can really react better when it happens. I think you want to tell us something, Sarah Elvira.
Yeah. I mean, if this would happen, I think it would really emphasize the need and value of indigenous knowledge for the society. And that we are dependent on the local level, like local knowledge, and this indigenous knowledge to a great extent that we have these systems built locally. Because we have a very resilient way of thinking and handling crisis.
That's great. So some optimistic remarks. Deputy Minister, would you like to revisit your statement after the thunderstorm?
Ну, Во-первых, вот эта пандемия научила весь мир, что мы должны быть ко всем катастрофам быть готовы. Ну, всякое может быть, мы это не избежим, если будет катастрофа. Ну, мы всему должны отнести через науку, вот инновации, как у коренных народов. И эта инновация, наука нам доказала, что можно выжить любую катастрофу.
Thank you so much. And now I'm turning to Tibian Ibrahim. What do you think of that? How do you react?
I think, firstly, we definitely don't want that to happen. But the first point, I think, is it shows how much preparedness is needed. Yeah. And I think that some of the work that we're currently doing in the tech as well is on early warning systems. And I think just, obviously, yes, your question's about the response, but before talking about the response, I think it has to underline that there are many parts of the world that won't have access to these systems that will be able to detect in time for like multi-hazard early warning systems. And I think that's some of the work that's being done through many UN organizations under the UN Secretary General's Early Warning for All initiative is, I think, so fundamentally important for this reason as well. That being said, with regards to response, I fully agree with what's been said. Local and indigenous practices should be taken up. I think that's also why what I wanted to tie in with the national systems of innovation. So that's something that within the tech we're also looking towards, and we are trying, the Paris Agreement also underlies the importance of innovation and enabling innovation. And I think the reason I say this is in the local context as well is with national systems of innovation, it's about incorporating all actors, taking into the context of the countries that you're in. And the realities of many countries are that they don't need a sort of a solar event to lose electricity. They experience that every day. There are parts of the world where you don't have these kind of modern technologies, and it's not available right now in many parts of the world. And when you try to do a more holistic approach to innovation through national systems of innovation, you have to take these things into account. And I think that's, obviously that's not going to be a response immediately, but I think that's something that needs to be factored into responses as well, in order to ensure that when you are identifying technology, when you are identifying innovation, it has to be related to the context, whether it is a mountainous region, whether you're looking into a small island developing state, and all of these have to be considered.
Excellent. So basically, we would have some solutions. And I guess indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge would come in a big way because this would what we would rely on in such a situation. But probably the lesson learned also is that we are not prepared. And I think this is what Chris was saying. I mean, we can do it, we can better anticipate, but we definitely are not prepared for the next big crisis. So we need to put that into our DNA and make sure that we are more anticipatory, definitely. And Beth, can you come on stage and tell me how would you react to such a situation? Would you go chase some cheese, or you can come and help me close the session before we launch the report on foresight? Wherever you want.
So no, I did very much like the cheese. That's actually one of my my favorite foods as well. But I think, all of you highlighted very, very excellent points. So first, you have to think about what matters to you, and then how can you share maybe the knowledge and the technologies, innovations, adaptation practices that you've experienced. How can you share that with each other? So I was very interested in the discussion there. So should I move ahead and start to close up here, Vincent, I think, because we're towards the end. I just wanted to say that for me it was really a very inspiring session where we've explored science, technology, innovation gap from different angles. We didn't only focus on the challenges, although Vincent did present us with a very large challenge, but also on the opportunities for change. So what can we do to help create that change? And so I think a clear message that came out as well is that the gap, the STI gap, is not just technical. It's also about justice. It's about inclusion. Science and technology must serve everyone. And this is especially true for small-scale producers, indigenous communities, women, youth. These groups are often left out of key discussions. So this, just to say again that this is also indeed a core element of the FAO Science and Innovation Strategy. And as we also heard earlier today, emphasized recently in the recently adopted UN Pact for the Future. So we've heard inspiring views on the role of policy and investments. We've also seen the importance of integrating local knowledge into global systems. And so our next step really is to turn these ideas into real action. Collaboration is essential. Governments, the private sector, civil society, and communities must all work together, because it's only through partnerships like this that we can rebuild resilient and inclusive agri-food systems. And they have to withstand the test of time, and they have to withstand a rapidly changing world. So let's take the momentum from today's discussion into our work. We want to push for equity in every part of our innovation journey. I want to thank all of the speakers, the panelists, the moderator, the participants. Let's move forward with a commitment to a more inclusive and better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth. Thank you to our speakers. It's the end of this session, and we are closing one session and we are opening a new one, which is the launching of our reports. So thank you very much. We can give a round of applause to our speakers. Thank you very much. Chris will stay with us. And we are almost perfectly on time. So we are moving to this next session. And I would like you to imagine a world where agri-food systems are not just feeding billions, but accelerating progress towards a sustainable future. A world where the UN Sustainable Development Goals, those ambitious targets for ending poverty, hunger, and inequality, are back on track, fueled by technologies and innovation that serve all the people everywhere. This may seem like an utopia, but it's a vision within reach if we start acting now. So in this spirit, FAO and CIRAD embarked on a foresight study on pre-emerging and emerging technologies and innovation for agri-food system transformation. This highly participatory effort involved collaboration with the International Agri-Food Network, as well as experts and stakeholders from research, academia, private sector, extension services, and farmers' organizations. It resulted in the synthesis report published last year that we launched last year at the Science and Innovation Forum, which was then further elaborated into this extended report we are presenting today and that we are very proud to launch. So now I would like to welcome my colleague Sofia on stage. Sofia is from the Office of Innovation, and she will give us some highlights of the new report. But before we have a video, right? But you can come here. So we have a small video to present. It's an appetizer.
Technology and innovation have the potential to accelerate the transformation of agri-food systems by achieving impact in a short time frame and specific places. FAO is working with partners using strategic foresight, including horizon scanning, to analyze emerging agri-food technologies and innovations. A recent FAO study, conducted in collaboration with the French Agricultural Centre for International Development, CIRAD, assessed around 200 technologies and innovations that could be of paramount importance in addressing agri-food challenges across different time horizons from 2030 to 2100. From this assessment, 20 technologies were identified as the most impactful, deserving special attention to address key agri-food challenges. The study prioritizes drivers and trends influencing agri-food technologies, considering triggers of change and regional aspects. 5 main scenarios for the future have been crafted to guide actions toward desirable outcomes, emphasizing governance, partnerships, ethics, and stakeholder engagement. The overarching goal is to inform long-term policymaking and investments in science, technology, and innovation (STI) for a more sustainable and inclusive transformation of agri-food systems. Solutions should not rely solely on technology, but also include policy, social, and financial innovations. Furthermore, this approach recognizes that no singular technology or innovation acts as a silver bullet. Instead, the focus is on having a variety of options and combining them judiciously to bring about transformative change and create impact where it is most needed. FAO is raising awareness of emerging technologies and innovations through various workshops and activities, including high-level events such as the World Food Forum and Science and Innovation Forum. Co-innovating and enhancing international and multi-actor collaboration, especially for the Global South, is pivotal for a sustainable future, leaving no one behind.
Okay, can you hear me well? So thank you, Vincent, for the introduction. I hope that you like the video. So I just wanted to start by referring to what Beth said a couple of minutes ago about the opportunities for change. And we strongly believe that the foresight could give us the opportunity for change because it allows us to actually co-create the future that we want, not just react, but co-create our vision and the way to get to this preferred future. So yes, as some of you may know, we already launched last year the synthesis report on the same topic. So you may be asking yourself why actually we repropose the second, even bigger publication. So I hope now to give you a small teaser to let you know what's in there for you and what we offer, what is the added value in this new publication. So you could just see the cover, and just to say, we continued with the thorough assessment of the most promising pre-emerging and emerging technologies and innovations related to production, but also processing, marketing, transportation, but also social policy innovation, market innovations, etc. We assess them in terms of their perceived impact on the most important challenges of the agri-food systems, but also on the impact on sustainability, inclusivity, and resilience of agri-food systems. We also looked at the potential time for these technologies to achieve maturity and to achieve a significant impact. But we actually, went a step further in this new report, because one of the main findings from our work on the synthesis report was, as you saw in the video, that there's no one solution that can actually address the intertwined and complex challenges. That is why in this report, we don't only provide the technical data. Well, we do, but what is most important, we provide a holistic overview and guidance for policymakers, decision makers, and investors, as well as our stakeholders, how to leverage the synergies between different related technologies, broader emerging innovation fields. And this is the set of the technical data, but also practical guidance. As you can see, this is just a teaser of some very practical guidance that we offer. Also, we are looking not only at the technologies, but about the whole innovation ecosystem. So once again, several main conclusions from the synthesis reports were confirmed, among them that the multilateral, transparent governance of the innovation system is key, that we need really different actors to come together to innovate. And another, let's say, very practical tool that we offer in the synthesis report is how to manage the innovation process that can be disruptive, can be evolving, can be co-creation, but in any case, there may be different obstacles on the way. And if the decision makers, researchers, and other innovators understand this process, they can manage it better. Also to shorten the gap between the conception of a given technology and innovation and their application, their impact. So this is another very practical tool that we are providing. Again, this is just a teaser. In the report, you will find much more data and practical tools. Just a couple of other main findings. As I mentioned earlier, innovation can be disruptive or can be evolving. If it's disruptive, it can also bring many positive changes and really bring transformative outcomes. But it is more uncertain. That is why we really need robust policies and regulations which don't stifle the innovation, but ensure the equity and the just conception and the implementation of the given innovation. And we need robust monitoring and evaluation systems. Another important finding is that, once again, we confirm that commitment to sustainability and impact of the innovations, not just because they are there, but if they can achieve an impact in an equitable and just and sustainable way, this what should be guiding our action on technologies and innovations. So just to be short, because I know that we don't have a lot of time and the report is very long, but really rich, so I would encourage like every one of you to really read it, share it with your colleagues and networks, and first of all, use it for impact, because we really don't want to have it as another nice report on a shelf. We want to use it to change something. And actually, we have already started doing it with our regional partners in Latin America, RELACER, and in Central Asia and Caucasus, CACFRAS, where actually we've implemented foresight according to this methodology on the regional and country level, influencing real-life policy process. And one of the results was that RELACER committed to extend this exercise to some other countries. So we can see that the interest is high, the momentum is high, so don't lose this link. Okay, I think link is on my next slide, should be. Okay, or not, sorry. Anyways,
we need to move to the...
yes, yeah. I just want to thank everyone who contributed to this report, and in particular the authors from CIRAD and from FAO, and Nevena, who couldn't be here with us today, but she's really the brain of this operation. And of course, our ad interim chief scientist and director of Office of Innovation for their encouragement, strategy guidance, and support. Thank you.
There was this QR code. Oh. Thank you so much, Sofia. And we couldn't close this discussion without having another panel, right? We love panels. But it will be very short. So I'm going to call on stage a few colleagues, friends, researchers, people who have contributed to the report, or people who could be potential users to this report. So I'm going to call Selim Louafi, who is the Deputy Director of CIRAD and Chief Scientist. And I would like to call also Mrs. Sue McCluskey, who is just Special Representative of Australian Agriculture, and Christine Pfeiffer, who is part of the Future Literacy and Foresight in UNESCO, and also Valmain Toki, is she here, who is the Chair Expert Mechanism on the Right of Indigenous People. But I haven't seen her. So it doesn't matter. We've got great experts on stage. So just maybe Selim, if you would like to start. And
Thank you, Vincent, and many thanks to FAO for offering CIRAD the opportunity to work on this report. And I'm really honored to say a few words on behalf of my two colleagues, actually, Sarah Audouin and Patrice Jamen. I think Patrice is even here, who are the two main research fellows who have been involved in this work. So just to start with the CIRAD, maybe to say a few words, that CIRAD is the French Agricultural Research and International Cooperation Organization working on sustainable development in tropical and Mediterranean regions. So all the research that we conduct in CIRAD is done in partnership with developing country research organization and also universities and other stakeholders such as farm organization and private sector companies. And one of the main features of CIRAD is that it combines highly advanced research in biological, veterinary, agronomic science with also equally strong social science research. And we have in particular a unit, a research unit that is really dedicated to innovation. So let me emphasize, to respond to the question of what are the key insights from this report. From our point of view, I would say three main points. One is that the report highlights that the future of agri-food system is not predetermined, and as has been said already, technology solution alone can never be a silver bullet. So therefore, that means that discussion around the pathway for change towards a desired future must really occur in a kind of a multi-stakeholder way and space at local, regional, and international level, supported by science-based evidence. Second message is also the importance to move away from the image of the Global South as only consumer of technology and innovation, and recognize that there are some critical and impactful innovation and change processes going on there, especially when it comes to sustainability, transition, and food system transformation. And the third point, at a smaller grain, is that also this report highlights the importance of frugal innovations and the innovation potential of, I would say, non-institutional and informal players, such as indigenous people and farm organizations, and suggest a number of measures to better recognize their contribution and value their contribution. So beyond these three important insights, what is equally important is the methodology and the framework that this report contains, and its potential for replicability in different contexts to serve different needs of countries and stakeholders. So beyond merely communicating result, observation, insight, and recommendation, this report really provides, I would say, a toolbox that could be used by decision makers to better reflect and engage various stakeholders in co-designing scenarios and exploring different pathways for technology and innovation that are relevant for different needs in terms of agri-food system challenges and contexts they are facing. Lastly, when we tend to put a lot of faith actually in technology and innovation, and that's obviously very important, but we should not overstate the fact that technology always operates in a specific social and economic context. And the way they are developed and mobilized, those technology and innovation, are not neutral and could lead to a whole range of different outcomes in terms of agri-food system transformation. So we really need to pay attention to the role of different actors in the innovation system and look at how they will, the role they will play in generating the expected outcome that are the desired. Just to conclude, let me say a few words on how research organization, as I'm here also as a research organization, play a role in foresight. I can see here two roles. One, first, and that's how we've also engaged in this report, is to play a role in the methodological development and refinement, and I would say its customization and piloting in different contexts. So the main challenge is to have really foresight methods that are able to integrate the entirety of the innovation ecosystem beyond the usual suspect, I would say, and suitable to different specific national and local contexts. So, and the report, as I said, has been established in such a way that it offers a long menu of different options, categories, and entry points, And based on their deep knowledge on foresight methods, their knowledge on who are the actors, the formal and the informal one, and the technology that are discussed and the challenge, research organization could really help to customize the methodology and align it with the specific needs of a specific country and context. The second role is to play a role in the take-up and deployment of these foresight methods by decision makers, be it a decision maker, public decision maker, and private decision maker. We are really happy with our collaboration with FAO, and we believe that organizations such as CIRAD, and it's also a research partner in the Global South, will be key actors to help to spread this foresight methodology in real life as a tool to really strengthen the science policy interface and complement the usual science-informed evidence approach with this kind of also powerful approach that helps to identify concrete pathways for change based on knowledge from various stakeholders. And as a final word, I would be remiss if I don't mention that this critical importance of foresight has been identified in a guide on strengthening science policy interface at the national level for agri-food system. This guide that has been that is currently being finalized and coordinated by the Chief Scientist Office of FAO, and in which CIRAD has also been involved in this guidance document. And we are really happy and proud to have also participated and to be able to make the linkages across those two aspects of foresight and science policy interface. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Selim. I would like to move to Christine first. Christine Pfeiffer and then Sue. Christine, how this report on emerging technology and innovation can contribute to foresight literacy and making impact globally?
Thank you very much. So first of all, kudos for this very, very important report. For us as UNESCO, we appreciate the reference to the literacy. We call it futures literacy, as we believe you have to really use the future to rethink the present. This is somehow a paradigm shift because we normally start from our current ambition and translate that into future. And what you did here was somehow the opposite. So I see many different strengths here. Obviously, innovation and foresight is intrinsically, I would say, interconnected and very useful to consider together. We heard before we need to democratize science and STI policy. We also have to do the same for futures. So we say in UNESCO, you have to democratize futures, we have to decolonize futures, because there's more than one future, and this is what the report also shows. Another very important part I consider is the truly multi-stakeholder perspective you have taken. That means you have trust. You gathered the trust of the people around the table to really come together and design scenarios that allow to do some innovation, even on the process level, even on what makes you then finalize your preferred future. We have seen we have to move away from just the probable part. You say plausible alternatives in the report, we would say possible from a futures literacy perspective. So you can see that there is much that at the moment we don't see. So this report helps maybe also to eliminate or at least to flag our own biases we have, because we have them, and it helps to overcome, to see examples of what went well. I also like the local dimension. This is very important too, because it's very important to have global triggers, trends, mega trends, analysis, and so on and so forth. But we also need the local part to make it truly participatory. So really consider what is the current domains, what is the drivers you have on the ground, how do you really speak to the strength you have on the ground. So the report, in my view, shows quite well that there are strengths and challenges at the same time, and there are opportunities that you can capture if you have a broader view on the future. And maybe last but not least, the recommendations. I guess translating it into something which is then practical is maybe the difficult part when it comes to futures. And you do that very well. You have a great let's say, chapter on this. I guess you included 10, if I'm not mistaken, wildcards, which is amazing. So I really feel you did a great work there, be it from the content point of view, and I'm not an expert, but especially from the futures point of view, because it inspired and will inspire, I'm sure, other people who think that future can become possible, really not to make sure we are a little bit going away from just problem-solving attitude, which is useful, but it's short-term. But to rather consider this intergenerational approach and to think longer term with all that, the problems that it entails. So to really make sure we find a good balance. We heard about indigenous, we at UNESCO we would say decolonize, and I guess this is very, very important for all of us, and to set some examples, and I guess you set the bar very high. And I'm looking forward to be able to show this work also in the community of practice, the UN Foresight Community of Practice, which is established and led by the UN Futures Lab. And as UNESCO, we implement it on behalf of the UN Futures Lab, and I have the pleasure to coordinate that work. And we had already great, let's say, collaboration with FAO here. It's a community for UN, broader UN. So it's open to all colleagues, and what we do there is to show exactly those good practices in our Knowledge Hub. We had a webinar together. It's a safe space to really talk about what went well and how to make it even more accessible to to your peers, and maybe also to people that are at the moment far away from futures, because it can be so powerful and meaningful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Christine. And now I would like to move to Sue McCluskey. As a special representative of Australian agriculture, what does it mean for farmers? Does it mean anything?
Well, certainly, and thank you for that, and thank you for the opportunity to be here, particularly at this launch of this report. And I think picking up on what we've heard about it must be practical, and what does it mean for farmers. We've got to look at why this is important and why we need to actually make sure we can shorten our time frame from what happens in the laboratory to what happens in the field. And why is that important? And that is because technology and innovation changes so quickly that it can become obsolete, and we can't have that research that sits on the shelf. And how might we do that? Well, it's really important that we engage with farmers at a very early stage. We must see processes being farmer-led. When it comes to research and development, engaging with farmers at that early time means that we're actually focusing the research on what is needed on the ground, not perhaps what scientists or academics may think farmers need. And then when we look at how we actually then have policy that sits around this so we can actually get implementation, once again, we must have co-design. So we must have government that works with farmers, because if we don't have that, we won't get implementation. And once again, if we get implementation that can work in practice, we're shortening that time. And then thirdly, we've actually got to get adoption. We can't have research that sits on the shelf. We must have it adopted, and that's where we need to focus on what sort of education, what sort of support, and what sort of tools. Once again, I'm a farmer myself. Who do I learn from and listen to? Other farmers. So it's important that we then once again have this farmer-led, so that farmers can be part, particularly with early adopters, of showing others how the technologies can work, showing them how exciting it can be, and showing them how innovation can improve their productivity and profitability. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Sue, and thank you to all of you three for your fantastic insights. So we are reaching the end of this session. We'll have closing remarks from Chris, if he's still with us. Just before, there was a video. There is a video we can present first. So a short video showing the feedback from the workshop participants, and then the closing remark. Chris, are you still with us?
I'm still with you.
Fantastic.
Science and innovation in itself has a role, because they bring solutions for sustainability and even for resilience, to be able to absorb shocks against increased volatility and to bounce forward on a more sustainable pathway, and that's where foresight plays a role.
We work with agriculture, particularly with biotech and AI in agriculture, and here a good governance system, the acceptance of social innovation as co-evolution to technology innovation is key.
Biotech and innovation can be one of these tools for this transformation if they are people-centered, if they are fit for purpose, and if they are accepted.
Foresight, and we think to where we need to be in 20, 30 years. We need to be in a place where there are a lot of food producers producing diversified food that are linked to their local food system.
Foresight scenarios for us are a very useful instrument, tool for decision making, for visioning about the future of the agricultural knowledge and innovation systems in Europe.
When we have to decide for the technology or for the people.
It's really important that we understand how different technologies can coexist together and how we can work together for a more sustainable agriculture.
These are some of the people who participated to the exercise, this foresight exercise. Thank you so much. I would like to give the floor to Chris to give us these final remarks from and some words of wisdom.
I'm not so sure about the words of wisdom, but I will say a few things, Vincent. And the first one is that I mean, thanks again for creating this space, and thanks for inviting me here. Look, I've followed FAO's innovation and foresight journey from afar. And as we do have this space together, I really just want to say congratulations for the trajectory that you've all taken. Innovation, foresight, data, behavioral science, technology, these are not add-ons, and it's not good enough for any of us in any of our organizations to underinvest in these areas. We need to invest in staff training in innovation, in foresight. We need to invest in funds to help unlock creativity. We need to invest in permissive environments for people to think, to experiment, to sometimes fail. And I think that FAO does this, and I really think you should be congratulated for the efforts in doing so. This is a space to celebrate and to say congratulations after all. And the second thing that I wanted to say is that this report is one of the most recent examples of what that looks like. So I wanted to say congratulations to Vincent, to Sophia, to Nevena and the broader team, because this report really sets the pace. I think this report is something that takes innovation and foresight very professionally, very, very seriously. And I think it's something that the rest of the United Nations system should be looking at in awe, because you look at interrelationships, you really do a lot of work in understanding how various stakeholders could come together, could consume this information, and what it means for different actors to innovate. I think that it's crucial that you look at innovation as being more than technology. You look at, as Sophia said, the ecosystem of innovation, and I think that what really threads its way through is that this is a practical tool. And so this is an innovation and foresight report for the food and agricultural organisations and sector writ large, and those working on those issues. But for me, as somebody who works in innovation and foresight across the length, breadth and depth of the UN and with partners and with member states, this is also an exercise in thought leadership. You underscored the need for equity, for the need for just innovation, the need for implementation, for regulation, impact and sustainability. And I think that more across the UN and beyond could and should learn from this, from the process that led to the creation of this report, from the report itself. And FAO, you've made this investment. It's on the rest of us to consume it, to understand it, and essentially use the insights that you provide for greater impact for some of the most vulnerable people in the world. So congratulations to you and the team, Vincent, and thank you so much for inviting me to be here, albeit virtually, with you today. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you so much for your words of appreciation. And again, I wanted to thank my team as well, who is behind this report, this study. Nevena should be with us. She fell sick because I think she's been working so hard on the report. So just to think about her and all the hard work that has been done by all my team here. Thank you very much. I think it was a great session. Tomorrow it will be even better. So I really encourage you to attend our sessions. They will be extremely interesting and fascinating and innovative. Thank you so much. Thanks for the digital scriber who has been doing fantastic things. We will discover it a little bit afterwards. And have a nice evening. Thank you.